Welcome everyone. This is Christy Calloway with the No More webinar series brought to you by Art Schools Network. Today's special episode is actually 3 parts, and we've decided to extend today's duration from 15 minutes to 45 minutes to bring you the richness of the content without rushing. And don't fret if you can't hang with us all the way for 45 minutes. We'll have this sent to you as a link and our website afterwards, because preparing your students for applying to an art and design school is so important. And today Leanne Adams is here with us, the Assistant Director of Programs and Operations with ACAD, the Association of Independent Colleges of Art and Design. I'm Christy Calloway, your Executive Director for Art Schools Network. We are a conglomerate of art schools all over the U.S., and we like to get you guys together to try to focus on what issues are hot and trending and contemporary for what you need to address. You can see we have members everywhere, and we're looking for more. Here's the wonderful Leanne Adams. I had the great pleasure of meeting her at our conference in Seattle last month. Leanne is again with the Association of Independent Colleges of Art and Design. She's been there for a couple of years. Our partnership with ACAD has extended for about 10 or 20 years as far as I know, and they just keep developing more and more resources for us. So today I've asked Leanne to take us through a thoughtful presentation on what students need to know to get into her, 44 design schools you represent, Leanne?
42.
42. I'm sure there's 2 more in the works. Why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit more about what you would like to address today, and I'll field the questions and clarify.
All right. So you mentioned 42 art and design schools. Here's a snapshot of all of our members. We have 42 schools. 4 of them are actually in Canada, so we have 4 Canadian members. The Alberta College of Art and Design, Emily Carr University of Art and Design, the Ontario College of Art and Design University, and Nova Scotia College of Art and Design University. And I'm sure some of you recognize some of our logos, and I know some of our members are actually members of Art Schools Network. So before I take you through why I choose a specialized art and design school, I just want to give you an overview of who our members are and why they're our members. All ACAD member schools are private, nonprofit, freestanding institutions, so not part of a larger university or college, and they're specialized schools of art and design. They offer BFAs and or MFAs, and those degrees are Bachelors of Fine Arts and Masters of Fine Arts. So they need to be BFA and or MFA degree granting. All of our member schools are dual accredited by NASAD. They are the National Association of Schools of Art and Design, so the national accrediting body, and also regionally accredited. All of our schools offer a third of the credits needed to get the BFA in the liberal arts. So students attending an ACAD school will study history, art history, English, creative writing, and the social sciences while they focus on their area of study, and they will take 60 studio credits, so the remainder of their credits will be focused on their studio. So it's a very rigorous and focused course of study. So that's the criteria of ACAD schools, or to be a member of ACAD. And art and design school is not for everyone. It's, like I said, a very rigorous and focused course of study. It is well-rounded in that students do take an extensive amount of credits in the liberal arts, but the majority of their time spent at an ACAD school will be focusing in the studio, whether that's graphic design or industrial design or a fine arts major like painting or a major like film and animation, which is completely different. And that's really not for everyone. Some students feel more comfortable in a larger school. Our schools tend to be small. I think our largest school has about 2,000 full-time enrolled students. Some students, 5,000 full-time enrolled students. Some students like the idea of not having to focus so much in the arts, but being able to take a range of courses around the university, and then maybe a smaller amount of art and design courses. So it's not for everyone. But for those students who it is for, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like a specialized art and design school. So our ACAD schools offer over 50 specialized areas of study in art and design. And here's just a snapshot of majors of areas of study across ACAD schools. So these are intensive programs taught by highly trained and successful faculty. And these faculty are usually working artists in their field, so they're a fantastic resource for their students. And these faculty provide students with an unparalleled and focused education, which they can then apply to their future careers.
Hey, Leanne,
yeah?
which ones are the most recent additions as a trend in schools as new areas of study or areas that are now being recognized through a collegiate degree?
I would have to say the public and social practice would be one of the newer majors, and also interactive media and media art. And I think that's sort of logical. Everyone kind of knows that that's an up-and-coming field. So one thing I want to say about these specialized areas of study, not every ACAD institution allows students to go right into their area of study as soon as they get into school as a freshman. Some of our institutions actually have a foundation year, and a foundation year is a full year devoted to the basics or the foundations of art and design. So students will usually study two-dimensional design, three-dimensional design or sculpture, or a spatial dynamics type of course, and drawing. And those three areas of study are meant to give the student a background by which to make a decision on a major, an educated decision. And then students usually will declare their major at the end of that foundation year and then begin their major as a sophomore. And then that sophomore year really tends to be a technical skill building year depending on the major. So if you think about going into photography or film, that student will have a lot of technical details to learn before they can start actually making photos and films. And then some of our institutions, students would go directly into a major. So that's something to think about or something to guide your students through. Do you have a student who knows they want to go directly into film and they don't want to do anything else, and that's exactly what they want to do, and they're headstrong? Then maybe a school like CalArts would be for them because they can bypass that foundation year. And then some students really, yeah?
Are you going to show us in your PowerPoint later how your website helps people filter for those kinds of opportunities?
I am.
Yay! Good. Okay, good. I didn't mean to spoil it. Just spoiler alert.
I'm going to advance now, unless there are any questions. And I just see Allison Ball from Young Arts popped on. Let's see. Trying not to get distracted by my
go-to. Laura McGovern is from, and Shane Schmeichel. I want them to tell us.
So should I continue, or do we want to wait for their answers?
Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt in a bad way.
Oh, no, not at all. So I just want to talk to you a little bit about critical networks, alumni networks. When you go to a specialized art and design school, you're part of a very small community of students who are all focused on their passion, really, and intense relationships form and bonds form between these students in this small community. And this sets you up for long-term success within this critical network, even after you graduate. Art and design students tend to disperse. I am a ACAD alumni, and I have friends all over the world now with my ACAD degree, and it's really important. I know it's cliche to say it's all about who you know, especially in this field of art and design professionally. it can be a small world.
You can use it. You can use it, or you can lose the opportunity, but it's always there.
So before I take you into tips and resources on our website and portfolio development, I just want to talk a little bit about prospects for career success with an art and design education. I know this is a question that many parents have, probably not so many teachers in your membership, Christy. I think everyone in Art Schools Network is on board with Art and Design School and the importance and its relevance.
They're very bored. They do want to know how to get in easier. It's not so much they don't want to do the work. It's just that it needs to be simplified, which is why a partner like you that says, here's what 42 schools are all looking for. And that is helpful to them so that they can, hit the highest mark for the broadest group of high-quality schools.
Yep. That's why I'm so excited to give this presentation. And I'm just going to breeze through this quickly. Some of your members might find this helpful when speaking with parents and also students. So prospects for career success with an art and design education. I've got some great data here, so I'll just quickly go through it. So due to the importance of creativity in the innovation economy, more people are working in art and design fields than ever before. And as you can see from this slide, more than 25 million people currently work in an art or design-related industry, and this is according to the U.S. Department of Labor. By 2020, this number is projected to be more than 28 million people. And we have some statistics on ACAD graduates. I think many of your members are familiar with the SNAP survey, the Strategic National Arts Alumni Project. I know that Sally Gaskell presented at the conference in Seattle a few weeks ago. And this survey is an arts alumni satisfaction survey. 51% of ACAD graduates tend to work in a for-profit sector, and 18% of ACAD graduates work in the nonprofit sector. And this data is from the last survey that was administered through SNAP. Excuse me, I'm just getting it together here. So, and we're seeing growth and shifts in many fields, and I have an example here for industrial designers, and my source is the National Endowment of the Arts. There are more than 40,000 industrial designers in the U.S. right now. And in 2012, the annual median wage of industrial designers was almost $60,000, which is nearly 33% more than overall college graduates. So it's pretty compelling. And industrial design is huge, and it's one of those degrees and also courses of study that parents can sometimes forget about. But basically everything, product design, model design, car design, fabrication, and other industrial design services are a huge part of today's economy. So fact, skills learned in an art and design education are invaluable to today's society and workforce. So creativity is a large component of today's innovation economy, and art and design schools prepare graduates for this workforce in ways that set it apart from other forms of higher education. So also another reason why a student might select a specialized art and design school. So being able to think creatively in the workplace is a critical skill in today's society. Creativity goes hand in hand with innovation, and creativity and innovation is among the top 5 skills employers list that will increase in importance within the next 5 years. And this is according to a study by the Conference Board. It's a business membership and research group organization.
This is really good advocacy material for our visual art and design teachers to be able to use with kids and their parents. That language that is just really succinct and helpful in giving them confidence in making these decisions.
Yeah, and I have more data, and I have all of this not in a PowerPoint format, so I would welcome any of your members.
Website, right?
Yep, it's on my it's on our website, and I have this in many formats, and I have a lot more data, and I know we only have 45 minutes today, so I had to kind of condense, but anyone should feel free to get in touch. So fact, art and design school graduates tend to work professionally in their areas of study, and it is possible to earn a living while doing what you love. Uh, so I have some more SNAP data here. So according to the most recent survey, 73% of ACAD alumni practice their craft at least several times a month outside of their work. And of those that do practice outside of work, 71% place a very high level of importance on their personal art practice. And ACAD alumni report that they are more satisfied with their level of opportunity to be creative in their work. And this is just a snapshot of the success story section of our website. Site the students, parents, teachers, we invite all of you to go to this section of our site. You can view hundreds of ACAD alumni profiles. You can sort them by areas of study. And you can read about what ACAD alumni are doing now professionally, what their careers are, what they're immersed in. And you can read, I think they're fascinating because you can really get a sense of the huge variety of careers and paths that our alumni take.
That sounds really cool. Have you ever done a graphic organizer that shows the strange revenue streams for the alum? For example, that doesn't sound very well worded. What I meant was I went to a SNAP conference called 3 Million Stories,
yep.
And they had a cool graphic organizer there for the revenue streams of musicians, and it was laid against a world map. And it didn't show where they lived, it showed where their money came from, and it was really fun how they lived. So this is so exciting to see like where these graduates come from. I can dive into your 42 schools, and these are the network of people that you're spotlighting. Do you, are you always inviting more alum to be spotlighted?
We are in direct communication with all of the PR and communications directors across our institutions, and they send us stories regularly. So I try to post them as fast as I get them, and I also try to get them up on our Facebook page
So
regularly.
I need to pay closer attention. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And then as far as that data visualization that you mentioned, ACAD schools are actually participating in the next SNAP survey as a consortium. So we will have, ACAD data separated out, and then it will also be, we'll have the opportunity to play with it visually. So what you're asking for is in the works. Okay, so I'm going to jump right into portfolio development. So this is the next section of my presentation. So the portfolio is possibly one of the most important parts of the portfolio of the application that students will submit to ACAD schools. And a portfolio is a requirement in all of our schools. And I think it's the biggest stumbling block. I think there are a lot of questions out there. There seems to be a lot of misinformation, and just having the perspective that we have from ACAD with all of our over all of our schools, I want to give some general advice. Before I go into this, I just want to preface it by saying every ACAD institution, even though they're all ACAD schools, have very specific admissions requirements and portfolio requirements. So what I'm about to get into is very general. Students should definitely contact admissions counselors at all of our schools or the schools that they're applying to get that specific information and to visit the websites for all of our schools. But again, this is just some general guidelines. First of all, we always encourage students to work from direct observation when possible. So that would be going outside and drawing plein air landscape, drawing from a model, having students work directly from a live model, or having them draw self-portraits or each other. Anything where a student is directly observing something instead of drawing from imagination. Many of our schools consider a foundational skill, and it's always great to see that type of work in the portfolio, because much of what students will be doing, especially if they begin in a foundation year, will be drawing and painting and working from direct observation and letting the natural world sort of inspire that process. We always say, when in doubt, work from life. Students should definitely include their most recent work in the portfolio. Just from my admissions background, I can say it was always really easy to spot the student who felt that more work in the portfolio was better and that they should submit everything that they had ever done. And it was really easy to tell what works were from maybe the 9th and 10th grade, and then what works seemed to be more sophisticated and done recently. And admissions counselors at ACAD schools really only want to see recent work. So work done maybe at the end of junior year into senior year. It's not necessary to submit artwork in a wide variety of media. I think students kind of run into the stumbling block of trying to work as quickly as possible in a wide range of media, painting, drawing, sculpture, ceramics, maybe an animation, maybe some graphic design. You know, maybe they want to show the admissions counselor that they've dabbled in all of these things, and that doesn't necessarily make the best portfolio. Sometimes it's better to, if a student has a proficiency in a certain media, if they're in an AP course and they have an area of concentration, maybe they have 12 beautiful paintings in a series all on the same theme, that can make a really lovely and cohesive portfolio. If a student has been working in a wide range of media and some of their best pieces happen to fall within that range, then of course submit them. But it's not necessary. I think there's a lot of people think that it's a requirement to do so. And quality over quantity, I know I touched on this. It's better to submit 12 beautiful portfolio pieces that are your most recent pieces than it is to submit maybe some of the outtakes. So maybe 20 pieces, but some of them aren't your best. In many cases, the portfolio does not need to specifically reflect the major that the student is interested in. So this especially holds true for students who are going or applying to a program where they need to begin in the foundation year. Because students aren't selecting their major until the end of that foundation year, their work really doesn't need to reflect that major. It can certainly do so. It's just not a requirement. If a student is really interested in studying sculpture or let's say architecture or industrial design, they should probably put some pieces in that reflect that interest, maybe some three-dimensional pieces or some pieces that reflect sort of a spatial awareness. But really, admissions counselors are looking to see the best work of that student, and it doesn't have to be major related. This goes without saying, but original work only. You don't want to try to fake out admissions officers. They've seen it all. It's really easy to spot work that's inconsistent, that looks like it's not done by the student's hand, and also by original. It's really best to work from direct observation, or from the student should really be working creatively and individually, and shy away from copying other works. As a previous admissions counselor, I saw a lot of references to pop culture, drawings of celebrities. Johnny Depp seemed to be a really popular celebrity that applicants drew. And it just, when you're going through hundreds of portfolios a day to kind of keep seeing the same unoriginal drawings or pieces, it gets old, and that can reflect badly on the student. Students should definitely get feedback on their work. So put together a portfolio, have your friends look at it, have your teachers look at it, as many eyes as possible to look at your work. And maybe you feel a piece is super strong, and then after getting some feedback, the other people in your life feel that maybe the piece kind of detracts from the overall portfolio. It's just good to get a lot of eyes on the portfolio. And then think about the overall presentation. How are you laying out the works? How are you photographing the works? If you have really bad reproductions of your works, really bad prints, it's really not going to do your portfolio any justice. Maybe think about getting a friend with a nice camera to shoot your work. Think about lighting. Maybe even hire someone. I know that that's not an option for everyone, and it's certainly not necessary, but just think about how you're presenting the overall portfolio. And your portfolio is only as amazing and skillful and beautiful as the photographic reproduction of it is. So I know that was a lot of information, Christy. Do you have any questions, or do you?
Yeah, one that is curious to me is that a lot of the high schools that feed into these colleges don't have the preparatory depth in some of the majors or areas of focus that they, are wanting the students to go into, the students are wanting to go into, I should say. And I like the way you address that it doesn't have to specifically reflect that major. How does the student express and the teacher demonstrate support for them to go in a place where they can't demonstrate yet? They haven't really cut their teeth on it, so you don't see it. Are you going to address that a little bit, or?
Yeah, you cut out a little bit. I missed the last part of your question.
I'm sorry, I'm chopping out. I'm the one with technical difficulty. I'll try to be brief. The students that want to go into a major and they don't have work in,
yep.
How do you coach them, or how do the schools help guide them into the areas they want to study where they don't have direct evidence? And I'm sure it's case by case. But
so, across our institutions, admissions counselors, even the institutions without a foundation program, are aware of the fact that most high schools don't offer film animation and video, or maybe they don't offer apparel design. So all of our schools are aware of this fact that high school students have limited access to these tools that are available in these very specific kind of technical majors. My advice would be for these students to contact the admissions office and to ask them, I'm interested in going into this very specialized major. I don't have the work in my portfolio that reflects this particular major, and I know you don't offer a foundation year. What kind of things would you like to see in my portfolio? And this kind of leads me to another point. All students should contact the admissions office for the schools they're applying to. I think a lot of people are afraid or hesitant to do this, but our admissions offices are great. They're there to help. They're fully staffed with admissions counselors who are usually also on the selection committee. So they're sort of a direct voice or even window into that really not transparent process. And the more you can kind of build a relationship with these people, with these counselors, and the more information you can extract from them before you actually submit and apply, the better.
I really appreciate that. And then the follow-up is the other spectrum. So what if a student has a body of work where a couple of the pieces show the process they went through, and it's not so much that it was a piece from the 9th grade to the 12th grade. We're talking like a project where it was that semester, that school year, and they worked from a rough draft all the way to the final piece. What would you say about representing the process? And it's important to show that, or is it only evident in the last? Could you just address that?
Yeah, absolutely. So it really depends on the student and the piece. I would say if you have 12 examples to show, you really want to show the finished piece only and let the piece speak for itself. However, if the process is clear and it presents nicely, I would suggest sending that in as a supplement, perhaps in a notebook form. If a student wants to actually scan in notebook pages or actually send in the physical notebook as an accompaniment to the portfolio, that works. Some of our schools may actually want to see the process in the portfolio, and if that is clearly indicated on their website under their portfolio requirements, then the student should definitely feel free to do that. But if the student is looking for, let's say, 12 to 20 portfolio pieces, I would be hesitant to advise a student to take up those precious slots in the portfolio by showing process. and again, a supplemental piece like a notebook can always be submitted in addition to the portfolio.
Thank you. That's so helpful.
So should we move into the other
Yes.
application pieces? Okay. And
Yes.
I feel like, Christy, we could have a whole webinar on portfolio development.
Oh, man, I don't even want to leave this slide. It's killing me.
This is such a huge piece. So yeah, to be continued.
It really is, because the teachers that are logged in are actual classroom visual art and design teachers. So the questions I'm asking you are their questions.
Oh,
And
great. Okay.
yeah, and they're so thoughtful, and it makes sense because these are the people that are going to help these students prepare these portfolios, as we hope, and they have to help them make that tough choice on which few pieces and what do you represent. So it's, and there's no silver bullet. It's checked with each school, but then the work should speak for itself. So it's like, it's tricky, and I appreciate
It
you.
is tricky.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not a transparent process at all, which is why students and teachers should call hound admissions counselors at our schools if it's not clear on the admissions
We
section
need to
of their
get them
website.
together. We need to get them directly together. Or you need to do it, or I'll help you. So that's another day, okay?
Okay. So getting other people to see your work, another great tool that you can access through ACAD is our online portfolio review portal. And over 30 of our 42 member schools participate in this. And students as young as 9th grade, so not just seniors, all of your students, 9th through 12th, and even prospective transfers, so even students who have graduated and might have gone on to study at a college that they would like to transfer from, they can participate in this by uploading their artwork, and it's free right now. It will go up to $5 eventually, but right now it's still free. And students can log in, they can select the schools they would like to hear from, and they will get feedback from admissions counselors at those schools. And the feedback will come to them in the form of email. And so students can actually start a dialogue via email with admissions counselors at the schools they are interested in from a very early age. So this is the first tool like this of its kind. It was just launched last year. It's becoming more and more popular as people find out about it. It's a tremendous opportunity for students to get used to the idea of reproducing their artwork, uploading it to an online cloud-based site, and then getting direct feedback from admissions counselors, which can sometimes be scary. And I would recommend that students start this process at a young age, so as young as 9th grade. This is not in any way related to the formal admissions process. This is just to get informal feedback on the portfolio. So this is in no way tied to a student's application.
That's really helpful, though. So it's not tied to admissions, but it starts to groom them for admissions, and they're getting feedback from the admissions or the faculty of these design schools. That's very helpful.
Exactly. And it's great to start relationships with these people. It's just admissions counselors are usually alumni of the school that they're working for, but not always. They're people like you and me. They are usually practicing artists, and they're doing the admissions gig on the side. And it's great to start a relationship with these people. And National Portfolio Day events are a great place to do that as well, because you're actually meeting with, in many cases, admissions counselors face-to-face. And I would encourage students, all students interested in applying to art and design school, to attend a National Portfolio Day at least once. It's just a great opportunity to get your work together, show up, meet other like-minded students, have that experience of talking about your work with an admissions counselor. It's nerve-wracking and scary yet exhilarating, and I think it also helps a lot of students kind of refine what their artwork is about or what they're interested in, forcing them to kind of look at their work objectively and see their work through the lens of a professional for the first time.
I
And
went to one of these one time. How did folks find out about these? I thought it was really interesting because all the work I saw was fabulous, and yet it was very. I hear what you're saying. You have to be disciplined. So how do they find out about these?
So the National Portfolio Day events calendar you can find on our website. And you can also just Google National Portfolio Days, and the calendar will pop up. They're in most major cities throughout the fall, and they usually taper off by the application periods in December and January.
Oh, that's great. So they're coming up. So this webinar is just in time.
Yeah, and I'm sure there have already been a few in September and October.
Well, thank you. That's great. So next year, in theory, from September through December, these are going on, and people can find out through your website.
Exactly. And they tend to get crowded. I would recommend students show up early. Come with a crew of people, maybe bring a family member and a friend, and you can have them split up and wait in different lines for you. You could potentially spend all day in one line waiting to talk to one school if it's one of the larger schools. And I know I'm showing some physical work here in this slide, but it tends to be easier to bring like an iPad or a small laptop to show your work digitally. Although, yeah, I mean, I've seen it all. I've been to many of these events, and some students show up with like a wheelbarrow of projects and three-dimensional work. So, and that's fine. It's just, yeah.
That's so cute. Okay, so what's up next here? I know you've got more.
Okay. I do. So I just want to talk a little bit about, did I already talk about tests?
No.
No, okay. I might have advanced too quickly, but let me just go right into this quickly. So some of our schools require a special admissions requirement, a visual requirement in addition to the portfolio, and some of our schools refer to them as home tests. I'm sure that many of you have heard of the RISD bike. This is just one of the examples. I have another example to show you. Students really freak out about these home tests, Christy. Let me tell you. So students will need to submit original drawings or works of art in many cases for these home tests. And they are devised to be able to prompt the student to follow specific directions, yet be creative within a tight framework. Students should follow. Excuse me?
I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself. These are fantastic.
Yeah, these are some nice examples. First of all, I would tell a student to calm down. As soon as you think, this has to be the best drawing of my life, it's going in my portfolio, or excuse me, it's my home test, this has to be the best thing I've ever done, that tends to be when you make a horrible piece. I would say to a student, loosen up, try not to think of it as this needs to be the best thing I've ever done. Follow the directions. So if the home test is requesting that you use a specific size piece of paper, I know RISD requests that students use a specific size piece of paper, definitely do that. If they request that you use a specific medium, definitely use this requested medium. And try to be creative and original within that rigid framework. And there are kind of two ways to look at this. If you have a student who draws from life and who has a really good technical proficiency, you know, maybe that's what they do for their home test. Maybe they draw something from life. Maybe they draw a bicycle from life and pay attention to composition and value and their layout and their negative space. And then maybe you have more of a painterly student. Maybe they think about the drawing in a different way, and maybe it's more conceptual than technical. And both directions are okay. This is really just to get a sense of how the student reacts to an assignment under pressure.
Great.
And I just want to show you the Parsons Challenge. So the assignment last year, I'm not sure if it changed this year, was to choose any theme or concept and interpret it in 3 original pieces. and then to actually support each piece with an essay of approximately 250 words.
Wow.
So you can see, yeah, the instructions are really specific, and students should follow the directions. That's the biggest piece of advice I can give here. Follow the directions, but be creative within that framework.
This is just fantastic. I would love to just be an admissions officer only for a couple of hours.
Yeah. See. So I'm going to move into the very last section. How much time do we have left?
You should wrap up a little bit, but go through your slides carefully.
Okay. So I'm just going to talk you through transcripts, tests, and essays, and then I'll give you just a quick overview of some of the resources on our website. So the goal is to put together the most competitive package as possible when you apply to an art and design school. You want to stand apart from the other applicants, and you want to see yourself through the eyes of a selection committee who's reviewing hundreds and thousands of students all over the world who might have similar credentials and very good portfolios or equally as good portfolios. So you want to think about these tests and your transcripts as part of the overall package, making you stand out. For your transcripts, most of our schools are only looking at the last 2 academic years. So if you have maybe a shaky, or your student has a sort of a shaky 9th grade performance, that might not necessarily reflect in the transcript from the perspective of the admissions counselor. Students often worry that their high school doesn't offer AP Art or college prep type courses, and that's really not a prerequisite as far as our admissions counselors are concerned. AP Art classes are great because they help the student put together a focused portfolio, but it's not necessary. Outside art classes can be great for this too. If you have a student who may not have access or time in their schedule to be pursuing many art classes, an outside art class is a good idea, even if it's at a community college, because it gives the student time to put together a portfolio outside of high school.
So what I'm hearing is that outside networks are really important to support a student who may not have the most robust program in school or in their schedule. And I know of many schools that take advantage of their resident artists or consulting retired teachers that are in the community. It doesn't always have to be a paid class. I know that in the community I used to live in, and it's a wonderful outreach, is Savannah College of Art and Design in Savannah. I'll be going there next week. And they provide retreats for teachers and students to bone up their portfolios. So I know there's a lot of opportunities outside of the normal school schedule that art teachers in the school know about, and I know they're happy to share that with their students and help them.
Exactly, yeah, and you don't necessarily have to pay for that extracurricular development. So I want to just move into SATs and ACTs. A simple call to the admissions office of the schools that your students are applying to can definitely yield the last incoming class's average scores. I think a lot of students get hung up on these tests, especially students in the visual arts. Testing might not be their strong suit. It might be helpful to see where a student measures up with the average test scores. The SAT and the ACT, they're usually not a deciding factor for a student. However, for a school that has many applicants and whose admissions process is competitive because of that influx of applicants, sometimes an SAT or an ACT score can be a deciding factor between 2 students with equal credentials otherwise. I would recommend taking either test multiple times. This is the case a couple of years ago. A 600 on each section of the SAT seemed to be about the average. And then for the ACT, the average, again, this is a few years ago, they tend to creep up every year, was about a 28 on the ACT on each section. So for the test of the English language, TOEFL and IELTS, many of our schools have minimum test scores for both of these tests. These are pretty important. This can really make it or break it for a student whose first language isn't English. Because of the liberal arts requirements at our schools and because of the emphasis on critique in the classroom and that the necessity of being able to share critiques on other students' work and to be able to defend your own work, these minimum scores tend to be pretty rigid across our schools. I've heard that the IELTS test is the more difficult test, so that's just a quick tip.
Do you have any graphic organizers that show any of this to help the names of all those tests and things you just mentioned?
I don't. The TOEFL is TOEFL, and IELTS, and their acronyms, Test of the English Fluency, I believe, and then the IELTS is IELTS.
Thank you.
And then many of our schools will require this for students who indicate that English is not their first language. Some students might, some students have a tendency to kind of fib or sway the truth a little bit in this regard. When students sign up to take the SAT or the ACT, their first language is actually displayed right at the top of that test. So if an if admissions counselor is looking at an SAT from the student and in first language is not English, and then they're looking at an application and the opposite is noted there, it's really apparent to see you know, if that might not be the truth.
Measure of their ability.
Exactly, yeah. And another thing to think about, the test of the English language, for a student whose first language isn't English, the SAT and the ACT scores generally tend to reflect that, as those two tests are really intended for English-speaking students. So the test of the English language can be a much better snapshot into that student's language abilities than a lower SAT or ACT score would reflect. So it's in the student's best interest to take either of these tests.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah, because the test, yes, yeah, I'm with you. It shows their English proficiency, not their intellectual ability.
Exactly. And just to quickly touch on essays, essays are a great opportunity to talk about any lapses in grades on the transcript. You know, sometimes students have something that's happening at home or a health problem, and maybe they took a dip at the end of their sophomore year or the beginning of their junior year, and an essay can be a great time to address that, to give an admissions counselor more of an overview of what's going on. It can also be a great time to highlight any type of service activity or extracurricular activity and how that might have informed a creative interest or their visual arts. I would stay away from talking about playing with Legos as a child. This seems to be this seems to be kind of an overall theme in essays I've read.
Oh, that's so cute. Legos are
yeah. It's funny how reviewing so many of these things, you start to see overarching themes across applicants.
That's adorable, but you don't want to know about it. You want to know about their last year and their next 4 years.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, avoid talking narcissistically about yourself. The essay can kind of be a window into the sort of warped, self-obsessed mind of a teenager.
Yes.
And after reading through hundreds of essays, you know, reading about failed boyfriend-girlfriend situations, and a lot of these scenarios tend to be similar across the board, and admissions counselors want to see sort of a higher-minded essay, and they really want to just learn about the applicant. And they're trying to put together a cohesive picture of who this person is and would they be a good fit for this school.
Right, because every teenager has teen angst. It's just that we don't really want to hear it, but if God bless them, that's all they want to talk about. So it's a good filter to not include that.
Yeah, and like the portfolio, have someone else read it. Show it to your English teacher, show it to your art teacher, get some feedback on it. You definitely want to spell check. make sure you are tailoring the essay for every school you're applying to, like applying to a job. I've read countless essays where the essay was addressed to a different school.
Oh, no.
And you definitely want to stay away from talking negatively about the school you're applying to. Like, oh, this is an example. You know, I am taking a risk by applying to a specialized art and design school. I really think that I should attend a larger liberal arts school, but what the heck, here go. You know, you want to stay away from language like that. You don't want to waste an admissions counselor's time. You'd be surprised. You want to keep that essay tight and succinct and high-minded.
That's great advice. I'm glad I don't have to read all of those, but I think a few of them would be fascinating. And I bet that, do you have examples, or do schools provide examples of, say, past year essay, or is that not common?
That's not common, especially these essays tend to be really personal.
That makes sense.
I think you would be hard-pressed to find a student who is okay with their essay being...
Great. Have you ever heard of Post Secret? I digress, but you could, anyway. So thank you for giving us the scoop on the essays, and then transitioning into the etc. What is that?
Letters of recommendation.
Okay,
so
good.
I have a few tips. Yeah, I have a few tips for this. I have read so many negative letters of recommendation. It sounds really weird, but you would be surprised. Have your students only ask teachers who they have a good relationship with to write these. That's really the biggest piece of advice I can offer there.
So someone would get a letter of recommendation, it's not actually supportive, and they would turn it in anyway?
Exactly. Like if a student thinks that they need to submit 3 letters of recommendation all from art teachers, yet they only have a good relationship with one of them, but they think that maybe a recommendation from a math teacher wouldn't be relevant, that's not true. They should really only be selecting mentors, teachers, employers, anyone who they have a really good relationship with.
Advocates, people who know.
Advocates.
That's great.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. So I know we must be almost done. I have one more slide. Oh, no, 2 more slides.
I think you're doing good.
So college visits, really quickly here, if your students can, if they can afford it. I know travel can be a huge expense. I would highly recommend visiting the schools you are interested in applying to. Nothing says more than a college visit in terms of vibe, student life, getting a sense for the campus, sitting in on a class. You can feel so much from a college visit, whether or not a place would be a good fit for you or not. So try to get out there and visit. And a lot of our schools offer virtual college visits too. I know it's not as good as the real thing, but at least you can kind of get a sense visually.
So important, and the schools organize open houses and retreat weekends, and you can visit when the school's in full throttle or when they're low-key. They have all kinds of organized situations. But particularly the fact that you're going to give them such a large part of your life, a couple of years, and you're learning, and then you're going to be paying for this education, make sure it is a good fit. And it's so interesting that I often field calls from parents or schools where they're looking for a fit for a kid, and they only reach out because they know they have a special situation, like this kid only wants to live in the city, or he only wants to live where he's going to work one day, or he's got his eyes set on. I mean, it's really specific, and so why not, if they're that specific, go see it. It's such good advice.
And a lot of our schools even offer programs where a student can stay with another student in a college dorm and kind of get an overnight experience. Yeah, that's not across all schools, but some of our schools have that opportunity, and what a great way to get a sense of what this place is going to be like as a student.
I think that's wonderful, and I know I've been on a lot of campus visits, and I want to add that you get the full thing. You get to see the dorms, the cafeterias. Of course, there's the art spaces, which are incredibly important, but then there's all the wraparound support where they do their laundry. It sounds silly, but it matters so much, and these schools are very thoughtful about all of those things because they are art and design schools.
Yeah, and just one more point before I move on. If you are on a college tour, make sure you're asking your tour guide to take you to the facilities of the majors you're interested in.
Good point.
Yeah, don't just kind of blindly follow the tour. If you're paying a lot of money to stay in a hotel, possibly take a flight, make sure that that tour touches on all the areas of that campus that you're most interested in.
I think that's a great suggestion, and I know that many art schools would, on the drop of a hat, with just a couple of days' notice, schedule anything for just about any prospective student and their family or guardians.
Exactly. Yeah, all of our admissions offices are accommodating, and they want to get students on their campus, and they want to make sure that the right students are coming their way, and
I
they
love
want to
this
show off.
about your website. This is the best tool. I'm so excited.
So yeah, this is my last slide, and I'm going to wrap it up here. So this is just a snapshot of some of our resources. There are some huge changes coming to www.acad.org. We are in the midst of a complete website overhaul. We are optimizing our site for access across all devices. We are making our college search tool much more responsive. The site in its current form is helpful, and the pre-college programs on the image on the left, you can actually look at all of our schools that offer a pre-college program and then link directly.
What's a pre-college program? Explain. That sounds really great.
Exactly. Yeah, let me go over that. So pre-college is usually a 6 or 7 week opportunity in the summer for students, usually in the summer after their junior year, going into their senior year. And a student would go and spend this chunk of time in the summer at an ACAD school, living there, studying in their major of interest, and basically being like a college student during the summer before their senior year.
Earlier, I'm so excited that you have this on your website right now. And how many schools do you see? It looks like you have maybe 20 at least that have summer programs.
Yeah, and I actually had to cut this. I had to cut the slide to fit on one slide. So yeah, there are more, and these are great opportunities. Students go through an application process. There are scholarship options, so students should definitely fill out all of the necessary financial paperwork to be considered for a scholarship. And students will actually go and live on campus for 6 weeks. It's a great time for students to work on portfolio pieces. So they have 6 dedicated weeks to spend working on their art. It's also a great time for students to get a sense of what being in a focused art and design school environment would be like. You know, maybe a student spends 6 weeks there and realizes, hey, I don't think I want to do this. You know, maybe I want to go into a larger liberal arts school, and maybe this isn't for me. It's just a great learning experience.
I really like the idea of the portfolio development, and I hear what you're saying. I think kids actually predominantly fall in love with the campus and end up going there. But back to portfolio development, there's so many kids that really want to have that polishing experience right before they start to apply. And if, gosh darn it, if folks knew that they could just go do something intensive at one of these accredited schools with these great reputations and study with these top faculty, I wish we had a whole webinar just on that.
On pre-college.
That's just such an amazing opportunity. Thank you.
It is. And then the middle slide here is an example of one of our school profiles. So students can actually view, download, and print school profiles for each of our schools that highlight a smattering of important data points: tuition, financial aid, ethnicity, student-to-teacher ratio, enrollment, what's required in the admissions process, how many pieces in the portfolio, whether or not the school has a foundation year. And what a great tool.
Like if they download it, it's just 1 page or 2 pages?
Each school has its own page, its own profile, and it can be viewed right digitally, or it can be downloaded as a PDF. So if a student wants to scroll through all of them, or maybe they want to compare 4 or 5 schools, they can print them and actually compare that data.
Oh, wonderful. That is
all
so
in one place. Yeah, and you see the college search piece on the right-hand side of the screen.
Yes.
Students can actually search through our schools by name, or the size of the institution, the location of the institution, degree level, if you want to look at all the schools that offer BFA or an MFA, or an area of study. Let's say you want to look at...
Two questions before you go on, because I want to
Sure.
go by the top. So by name. So sometimes kids don't know the real name of the school. Is it easy to figure out that drop-down box? Is it?
Yeah, the drop-down box lists the full name of each school, not the acronym.
Okay.
Yeah, and like let's say you want to look at all schools that offer graphic design.
Okay.
At the BFA level, under 2,000 students in California. You can search very specifically like that, or you can just scroll through all of the schools.
That is so wonderful. That is just fantastic, because often with my organization, the schools, even the faculty and the leadership teams will call their school by the nickname, and so if they know any of these other areas, they can filter and find those schools or find all the other opportunities. What a great, powerful weapon in searching for your future.
Great. Well, I'm glad you think so, Christy. We think so too, and the exciting thing is that we're making it better.
How are you doing that, or do we have to wait and find out?
You'll have to wait and find out. We should be launching sometime in the new year, most likely January or February.
Like a new baby. That sounds appropriate. Thank you so much. Please contact Leanne Adams if you have any questions. You can see her email address there. You'll get a follow-up link to this webinar through email that'll give you the link. You can download it. Please share it with your faculty, your students. You can share it with anyone. It's free. That's what's so wonderful about partnering with ACAD, the Association of Independent Colleges of Art and Design, is because they brought this to us. This opportunity to our members, and we hope you'll join us at other opportunities like our conference in Dallas. We'll be issuing the call for proposals in January, and then the next slide is just encouraging you to become a member if you are not already, but these resources are available to everyone free on our internet, again, thanks to sponsors like ACAD. I want to thank you for joining us today, and I hope you have a great Friday the 13th. Thank you. Goodbye.